Welcome. Today's Dev Call, November 14th. And we'll go through what everybody's doing, but I'm going to start off with, so last night we had basically for Ampleforth, the price feeds from Chainlink and Tellor were very similar because we follow very similar methodology, but Ample's number was quite different. And as of now, everything's fine with us. We're following the specification as we were given by our user, but we're going to start working with them very closely to make sure that we close that gap in the divergence. That's pretty much all I need to say about that. I think we're adhering to the spec, and we're going to work closely with them to fix whatever, if there's anything that needs to be fixed. Well, with that said, we can start with the dev call. Tim, I think you are the one that just finished something really exciting.
Yeah, so I have been working on what's called the toxicity measure, which is it's measuring the health of lending protocols. In this case, on Polygon, and it's measuring the ability to liquidate all positions in the lending protocol based on how much is lent out and how much can be how many tokens can be acquired on other markets to go liquidate positions. So yeah, we just delivered one version of that calculation the other day to our user, and we got some feedback and some adjustments to make. So that's what I'll be working on today. But yeah, I think it's a pretty cool use case for Tellor. It depends on going and getting all this data off chain and manipulating it and doing all these calculations, and then finally putting that final result on chain. So it just shows a cool use case of just aggregating all this data and doing transformations, and then doing all that work off chain, and then using Tellor to get that result on chain.
And would you say that this is the most off-chain computation heavy use case of Tellor that we've had approach us so far?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, that's cool.
The random number generator kind of has some calculation, some heavy computation off chain, but yeah, this one takes the cake.
Yeah.
Nice.
And a large part of that is just the volume of data that it depends on looking at every user, every address that's interacted with these lending protocols.
Yep. That's interesting to me, just from just thinking in terms of marketing and just the product that Tellor is. Just that added layer of the heavy off-chain computation aspect to being an Oracle. It's not simply just a messenger, which is really important, the Oracle problem, but this sort of scaling solution that can be having this off-chain computation component where it would be extremely expensive to do this stuff on chain. It's another layer of what Tellor provides. It's cool to see it hopefully go live.
Yeah, exactly.
The ability to do that is live, but it's cool to see a user come to us and allow us to flex that muscle.
I think we should note too that these the off-chain components are going to be open source too, where other oracles might not do that, where anyone will be able to run the off-chain computation and submit the data and compete for the rewards, just like everybody.
And be able to validate the data, because that's super important for Tellor.
Right.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a major part of our security. So yes, once Tim gets the thumbs up, we'll make sure that we'll implement it into Telliot, and everybody should have access to it.
Yeah.
This one is tough though.
Because go ahead, Spuddy, what'd you say?
I was gonna say this one is gonna be tough to run.
I bet.
It's a lot of node use.
But not everybody has to do it. Like with Tellor, you have the choice. You can choose what data feeds you want to support. And the ones that want to support this, they'll have something to start off with. So yeah, don't feel like you have to, but it'll be there.
The mechanic, like the crypto economics and the business model of how Tellor, the protocol, works, is designed that the only closed source aspect of it has to do with how the data reporters and their like specific custom software works, so that they can win this race. But it's not about. It doesn't incentivize being closed source about your data source, which is a really interesting dynamic, because we don't disincentivize all this stuff being open source except for that one component, because they're racing, as opposed to Chainlink or this, the more centralized Oracle world, where their whole business model, these different data providers, the whole thing is set up to incentivize people being very close source about the accuracy of their data and their proprietary methods for getting it and calculating it. And so you must trust them, and you could use them because, we're this most trusted source. We're a big institution, and we have all these like really amazing proprietary methods that only we can do, and it's like two different worlds. And I think it's just really cool. So
I agree. Who wants to go next? Tally?
Sure. I'm taking a little bit more time to work on the mimicry implementation. It's pretty long, the TypeScript algorithm. So I'm just going through it, and then I'll be testing it the next 2 days. Yeah. So that's what I've been working on primarily. And then I need to update the contract addresses in the monitor as well.
Okay, well that should be an easier fix, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And Brian, how are our front ends looking?
Things are looking good. We got Arbitrum up and running. So you'll see that coming through the data feed. Just the fund feed is actually ready to go as well for Polygon and Mumbai. I'm just doing a couple cosmetic changes, but it is fully functional as it is right now. And then I'm going to start working on the voting page, so we can just tailor it to more general disputes, because right now it's geared towards the treasuries, which we don't have anymore.
Right. Yeah, no, that will be super useful. I mean, not that we've had that many disputes, but
Right.
It's always easier to go through that scan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And Spuddy, how are miners going? You're muted.
Great. I'm looking at the data feed this morning, and everything was really stable over the weekend. I'm kind of working on getting enough Goerli Ether to run a Goerli validator so that I can get even more Goerli Ether, because that's our main, that's
How much do you need?
I need 12 more to start up the validator, because you got to have 32. You got to have 32 testnet Ether to start a testnet validator.
I can send it to you.
I know you can.
Okay.
I was trying to get it myself, but
well, I mean, that way you get more right away. Because I mean,
okay.
I have like 100 and something. So
cool. Just because that's the testnet that mimics mainnet, so we want to definitely be able to continue to use that.
Yeah, and also
I'm sorry. I discovered this whole market. Like if you search on Twitter for Goerli Ether, testnet Ether, there's actually a market for it. Like there's people selling it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, for as much as like $10 for one Goerli Ether.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Brenda, you should sell yours.
I know. You know what? I'm just gonna go and make some money off of that. No, I mean, that is ridiculous. Like that's one of the reasons like you have testnets, so you don't spend money, real money, and actually incentivize people to test.
Yeah.
What's
How is
the
that
holdup? Why is
difference?
it so hard to get?
That's a good question.
Because there are people who are running validators and going to the proof of work faucet so that they can get all of it and charge for it.
Oh,
Because
wow.
prior to, and I think that it's happening too, because prior to the merge, nobody was really using Goerli. Everybody was using Rinkeby.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But anybody who had a jump on Goerli is like, hey, you want Goerli Ether, you gotta buy it.
And one of the reasons we used Rinkeby was because their faucet is so bad. Like it was like you get a little bit of Goerli every time that you went to the faucet when it was working. So it's just easier to do Rinkeby because it's easy to access these test tokens. Oh man. Well, that's funny, kind of, but hopefully it doesn't disincentivize people from testing their code. You should always test your code. So, but also, Spuddy, thank you for being like pretty much on call last night. I know you and Akram jumped on as soon as I asked you guys to jump in and check out Ampleforth, even though there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I really appreciate you guys being available.
Yeah. So people in their Discord, in their public Discord, reached out and said, hey, the price on the market is like $1.20 for like Ample USD, but the Oracle rate is too low. Maybe somebody bought a whole bunch of Ample and they were expecting a positive rebase, but the Oracle uses volume weighted average, 24-hour average, and the way the oracles get that number is Ampleforth tells us how to do that, so that's why the oracle rate is what it is. So if we need to change that, Ampleforth will have to tell us that we need to change it.
We worked really hard to actually get it to their exact specification. And last night, I mean, Chainlink had a very similar number than us. And I did see like what you sent me from CoinMarketCap. So there is definitely a divergence in the exchanges that are being used. We just need to make sure that we get an updated list from Ampleforth before we move our spec too much. So yeah, I'll ping them today. Hopefully we'll get something from them. If not, it'll be what it is until they give us a new spec. So
plus with the way the price action was, I don't think anybody could really fairly say what the volume weighted 24-hour average should have been. I mean, it was like one huge jump in the price, but that doesn't mean that the number should have been higher necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, it started at around 4 or 5 p.m. when it like sort of ramped up. Yeah. So, and who knows if, maybe also, I mean, Ampleforth usually has pretty good, I think in my understanding is that they have outlier detection. So, but their number was still higher. So,
because Ample was the outlier. The Ampleforth Oracle was the outlier.
Right, but I'm saying within their calculation, like I would have expected them to also have some like outlier detection within it, but I guess because it was over a few hours, it's just kind of difficult to just say this is just the one.
They would have to be comparing their sources with Chainlink sources and our sources to identify that outlier. And maybe they know what it is. And hopefully
they can compare it also with if they're using a set of exchanges, they can compare those numbers across exchanges and actually be able to like say like to standards deviation, like don't use it or something like that. But because it started around 4 or 5 p.m. and then was sort of steadily going down like through the next 2 hours, and their number or their 24-hour it ends at 7 p.m. our time, I think, or whatever UTC midnight is. So, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And as of now, just follow the spec if you are reporting for Ample, and you will be fine. So, yeah, that's pretty much where we're at, Mike, in terms of the dev side. We're also we'll be starting basically tidying up all of our documentation and making sure that everything looks great for our future users, so they can integrate us with, as little hand holding as possible, because, we are an open protocol and that's the way that it should be. Nobody really hand holds you to deploy on Ethereum, but we're here to help you, obviously, throughout this process, and we're happy to get any feedback from you too, so that we can make it better and get it to the point where it is like truly good documentation that anybody can follow. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to add anything. Okay, well, thanks, guys. I'll be here all day. So,
Do we want to answer the question?
oh yeah, I have questions.
We had one good question, I think, right?
Yeah. Ryan, you pulling it up?
I'm not.
Okay. I like your camera. It looks like you're like screen because it's like a light. I have it.
Okay.
It looked like you were
But like
looking.
Ryan is on it.
Yeah. It is. Are we
Right.
planning to integrate something similar to Chainlink's proof of reserve service? And he gave a link. So I can't speak. I don't know if anybody else can speak on the details of how Chainlink's proof of reserve works, but basically it's this service that puts on chain proof of the reserves of a protocol or an exchange or a stable coin or something, like how much any product that is backing assets off chain. There's a good reason where people want to be able to reference that on chain, especially given what has happened with FTX recently. So it's sort of a big talk. And I remember the day that all this stuff started happening on Twitter, there was a lot of tweets from Chainlink saying like every exchange, every protocol should be using proof of reserve. My personal question about how the proof of reserve thing works is I think it still completely relies on trust of the organization who holds the reserves to provide that information to a Chainlink data provider to have them put on chain. So you're still relying on, it's basically like, to me, it seems more like a proof of, I promise we have reserves and we're putting these promises on chain.
Is it kind of like a closed source off-chain computation?
Yes. And it's just like these trusted people again. They're going to be putting numbers on chain, but
I think
how's it any different than SBF tweeting, I promise we're one-to-one backed, that he did, he posted that just like a week ago before this all this stuff happened. And Coinbase did the same tweet. All these exchanges are promising these things. And what if Chainlink just puts that data on chain? Like, I don't know. I don't know how this is trustless at all, is basically my point. So,
right. With any data, you have to think about like, what is the economic incentive behind it? And, there is really no economic incentive for any protocol to admit that they don't have enough reserves. So unless it's open somehow, or all of their reserves are on chain, they're really not. Yeah. It's very difficult to verify. But if there is a customer out there that wants this, we're happy to work with you on a specification that makes sense. So perfect. Then thank you, guys.